Greetings everyone, George Diaz here with Office of the Lord Ministries, and I want to welcome you to today's Pure Power presentation. Now today I want to briefly spend some time clearing up a misconception that is out there, that the devil has created in part by some scriptures found in Daniel chapter 3. And the misconception is that, yes, God can deliver you from danger, He can deliver you from harm, and He can protect you. However, it's only if it is His will. And I think one of the scriptures used to cause some confusion as to whether or not it's the will of God every single time to deliver you can be found in these verses in, again, Daniel chapter 3. And let me set this up. Basically, King Nebuchadnezzar has set up a golden image in the center of town. And it's his mandate that every time certain instruments are played, everyone is to bow down and worship this golden image. Well, clearly these three Hebrew young men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are devout, and they're not going to bow down to this golden image when the instruments of music are played. And so the word gets to the king that they're defiant, that they're not in compliance with this mandate, and he calls them before him. And when he calls them before him, we find here in verse 14 of Daniel chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made, well. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? And so what we find here is an ultimatum. If ye bow down when you hear the instruments of music, well, everything will be fine between you and me, and you guys can go about your business. But if not, if they don't bow down, I'm going to throw you into the fiery furnace, and there is no God that is going to deliver you from this certain death. And so we see here now in verse 16 what their response is. Their response is, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. What does that say? Listen, this is a no-brainer. We're not even going to think about this. We're not careful to answer you in this matter. If it be so, if what be so? If you throw us or try and throw us into the burning fiery furnace, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and He will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. No gray area here. These guys are convinced, and they are fully in faith that God can and will deliver them from the fiery furnace. And then verse 18, and here's where the confusion sets in. But if not what? But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. But even if you don't throw us into this fire furnace, even if you let us go, just so you know, we're not going to be worshiping this golden idol that you have set up. Now clearly, it does not state what some translations in the Bible, I'm going to read one of them shortly, say, but if not, as in, but if God doesn't. That's not what it's saying. You don't have to be an English professor or scholar to know that if they in fact have been thrown to the fire furnace and they are now deceased, that they wouldn't be serving any gods. So what is the need for him to say, but if not, be it known, we're still not going to serve your gods and we're still not going to worship the golden image, if you follow me. And so go over here, and I'm not going to read which translation, but it's one of the more modern translations, and I want to point something out to you. Everybody's played telephone, and it's the game where you get about 8-10 people, and you start at one person, and they say a certain sentence, and then by the time you get to that 8th or 10th person, it's not exactly what was said in the beginning of that communication. All right? And so this is what happens the more times that you translate the Bible, even in the English language. All right? And so the same verse 18, says in a modern translation, but forgive me, let me go to verse 17. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and He will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if He does not, "We want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." Makes no sense. And clearly it is not what was said in the King James Version. And so what we find out is that because of their faith, they are in fact thrown into the fiery furnace, even though it was made 7 times hotter, even though he called on his most mighty men for intimidation purposes to throw them into this fire. And even though these mighty men were consumed just by being so close to the opening of where the furnace was by the fire in fact had no hurt on these men. There wasn't even the evidence. No, their clothes wasn't singed. They didn't even have the smell of smoke on their person. Okay, and this is the kind of miraculous, really commonplace deliverance that God has in store for believers that not only trust in His Word, but actually carry out their trust faithfully by their word and their deeds, by their actions. And so we're going to find out that in verses 29 here as we close, the king speaking, once he has in fact seen that God has delivered these men from his hand, from certain death, he makes a new decree. He says, "Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. And so what do we have? Well, every time you in faith trust God for your deliverance and your protection, you have promotion for yourself, reward, restoration. You have life, clearly. And more importantly, God is exalted. God is exalted. Praise God. So remember, not only can God deliver you because He's all powerful, but because you're His child, God will deliver you.